Hello, everyone. I'm Nancy Matthew, Vice President of the Cybersecurity Summit. Thank you for joining us today. Next up, we have our closing speaker, Richard. He is a cybersecurity advisor for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and CISA. Rich, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind introduction. Like was said, my name is Rich Richard. I'm a cybersecurity advisor with the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the agency where security is so nice we say it twice. I should say up front, just so you know who you're talking to, I am not a law enforcement person. I have no regulatory capacity in my job whatsoever. Before I started with the government in 2016, I was in the Navy. I retired from the Navy in 2003. I did my 20 years. I was a data systems technician, chief petty officer when I retired. From there, I went into defense contracting, server administration, server engineering, over to the cybersecurity side of the house, to my current gig with CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. All right, so the Cybersecurity Advisor Program. Who are we? What do we do? Basically, our job is to sit down with folks like are on this presentation. We try to get a feel for where you're at in regards to your cybersecurity posture, perhaps get an idea of any goals or perhaps a roadmap going forward as to where you're trying to get your cybersecurity program to. And then it's our job to bring to the table all the different resources that the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency has available to stakeholders. We have a tremendous amount of resources. I'm going to talk about those in a little bit. What that looks like in short, obviously we promote best practices. We definitely want to promote risk assessments and whatnot in cyber infrastructure. We have educational avenues that are available. And I hate to say it, unfortunately, we have a greater and greater commitment of our time towards incident support. One of the jobs of the CSAs is to help the folks out there that we work with navigate the different federal options that are open to you in the case you suffer a cybersecurity incident. We are broken out regionally. There are 10 CISA regions. I am in Region 2, New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. But I have 22 other colleagues that work nationwide in the other 9 regions. If you are looking for a local point of contact specific to perhaps a company office in a different location, by all means, please get a hold of me. My contact information will be at the end, and I'll be happy to facilitate a transfer over to the local cybersecurity advisor. So, who do we work with as the CSAs? Primarily, we work within critical infrastructure. There are 16 critical infrastructure sectors. You see the depiction here of what those sectors are. We work across the board. You see things like transportation, financial services, healthcare, critical manufacturing, even dams in the defense industrial base. We can work with stakeholders in all these areas. We also work with nonprofits and faith-based institutions. So we can work with, say, a college or a university. We can work with a bank or a credit union, to a large financial organization, to utility companies like water treatment facilities, electric companies and the like, transportation authorities, and everybody in between. We service all these sectors equally, to include government. Government, state and local government are some of our primary people that we work with to help them in securing their own infrastructures. But again, we work across all of these different sectors. Everybody is eligible to participate in all the services that we offer. And I'd be happy to speak to you personally about some of those, but I'm going to give you an overview in just a little bit. All right, so I wanted to start off with what are some of the challenges that people are facing out there now. There is a tremendous amount of things going on out there, especially in the COVID world that we find ourselves working in. Teleworking has become a giant challenge for folks, and like it says here, there's more to teleworking than you getting to work in your pajamas all day long. There's a lot of challenges involved for you as the teleworker, for the folks that support you in teleworking, and for your leadership as well. Malware is a challenge. It always has been a challenge. It always will be a challenge. As fast as the antivirus folks and the malware people come up with fixes, is as fast as the bad guys look to circumvent those fixes. Phishing, obviously it says here, if it sounds too good to be true, it is, especially again, in today's COVID working environment. I did a tremendous amount of outreach to healthcare as part of my job when the pandemic started. And by and large, every single organization, from hospitals to research institutions and the like, that are working on COVID, they all experienced a tremendous surge in COVID-related phishing. And back in the dark days of February and March, when PPE was really short, a lot of folks received those emails. Click here for your free case of N95 masks. Click here for a box of gloves and things like that. And unfortunately, people, knowing that it was probably too good to be true, they were so desperate that they clicked anyway. And there were some unfortunate circumstances. And ransomware. Ransomware is a scourge across all industry. Right now, healthcare is under tremendous challenge due to ransomware. They seem to be a big target, as well as financial services. That said, like it says here, it's just not a work thing. It does have application to you as a home user. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about those challenges first, and then I'm going to talk more about how we can help combat some of those challenges. Teleworking, like I said, teleworking is a big thing, especially for organizations that don't normally telework. So many people went to a remote workforce very, very quickly back in February and March to help combat the COVID spread. I get that. That said, because it was done so quickly, some of these rollouts happened in as little as hours to days. And there's a tremendous challenge across the board, like I said, to both your executives, to the IT folks that support you, and you as the teleworker. So here's some of the things I just want to talk really, really quick about. As an executive, if you are supporting a telework environment, it starts at the top. It starts with you. You need to have good, solid policies in place for driving your telework environment. The teleworkers need to know what to expect. The folks that support them need to know how to do it, and it all starts at the top. So categorizing how your folks are going to work, what their hours are going to be, what the means are, coming up with secure policies to do so. It's all starts at the top. As part of that, as well as training, you need to train your folks on how they're expected to work remotely. I know that it got put into place very quickly in a lot of cases, and we kind of did things on the fly. So there should be some good lessons learned from that. Talk to your folks, talk to your IT department, figure out what works, and document it, and then make those expectations known across your organization. Know what's out there. I do a lot of assessments, and one of the first things we do when we do some of the assessments is we talk about your assets. If you don't have a good idea of what your assets are and where those assets are placed throughout your organization, especially now that we're working from home, things are going to fall through the cracks. Having a good inventory of where things are at, who's got them, how they're being updated, and things like that can go a long way to alleviate some of the challenges that you're going to face as an organization. That way, things, like I said, they won't fall through the cracks. And again, the hybrid culture, we see it a lot in distance learning where you have half at home, half at work kind of a thing. Understand that there are challenges to your users when they bring home the equipment, because now they're hooking up to their home Wi-Fi networks and things like that. Help them do so securely. The more you can equip them, the better off you'll be in the long run as an organization, because you won't suffer as many incidents as you would if you're just kind of winging it. IT professionals. these are the folks that kind of make it happen. Yeah, we talked about leadership, and again, I stress, it all starts at the top. How leadership views cybersecurity is how the organization will view cybersecurity. A good proactive leadership that puts an emphasis on working securely will help the entire organization. That will trickle down through the IT workforce to your regular workforce. That said, these are the actions your IT people have to do to work remotely. Patching is the number one thing. Besides patching is backups. The reason I say patching is probably one of the best things you can do, if not the most important thing, is so much of the bad stuff that's running around out in the wild has already been addressed, either through antivirus updates or the holes that they would exploit, the malware would exploit, have been closed because that system has been updated to close that hole. It's incumbent upon your IT professionals to make these changes and get them rolled out as quick as they possibly can. It's the best way to help secure your environment. Again, cybersecurity controls, having an organized set of rules by which you operate a remote workforce that's consistent across the organization will go a long way towards minimizing impact when bad things come up. Multi-factor authentication, again, login ID and password is great. Multi-factor authentication adds that next level. So maybe you go to an ID card that's chip enabled. Maybe you have the application requires, just like when you log into your bank account nowadays, they send you a text and you have to put in that 6-digit number that you got sent by text, different things like that. Use approved products. You should have a list of approved products for use on your systems. And it should be limited to just those approved products. I get that cases may come up where you need one of here, one of there that are not part of your approved product list. But if you have a set list of products that's approved for use on your computers, that you know what those products are and you know how often they have to be backed up, you know how often they have to be updated, things like that. Again, goes a long way. A unified strategy goes a long way towards minimizing impact. And of course, backups. Consistent, repeatable, tested backups. So many times I'll visit places where the backups are running, or at least they think they are. The bad day comes up, they try to restore from a backup, and the backups are either themselves corrupted, or maybe your tape is bad, or things like that. And a consistent backup strategy where you test to make sure those backups actually work, and then you have an offline copy of those backups, go a long way. Also at home, think about it, the home user. Think of everything that's important on your home computer. There's nothing worse than having everything, all the keys to your kingdom, all the pictures that you've taken throughout the years, all your private information, your tax returns and all that. It's all stored on your computer, and your computer goes down. If you don't have a good backup of that, you could potentially lose everything. All right, so you as the teleworker, here's some of the things that you face. You're trying to work. All of a sudden, the note pops up because you have a good proactive IT workforce that says, we need to install these patches. And of course, it's going to install at a really inconvenient time. I get it. I've been there. I work remotely. That happens to me as well. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it doesn't happen right now, as a fact. I get it, but you have to allow those patches to occur. Like I said, the patches go a long way towards closing holes. So using your home Wi-Fi, make sure it's encrypted, things like that. And update your home systems as well. Some folks, they don't have laptops to hand out to every employee. You're using your actual your home computer for a work function. Maybe you're going through into a VPN or something like that. But still, allow your system to be updated. Run a good antivirus product on your system and make sure that update, that antivirus product gets the updates to keep it current. So as new vulnerabilities arise, the antivirus product can detect the malware that can take advantage of those new vulnerabilities. Again, we have practices and policies. Again, your leadership should give you the rules by which you should work by. Try to do your best to follow those rules. If you don't, you're just opening the door for badness. If you try to circumvent any of the policies that are in place because maybe it's just inconvenient, you're just opening the door to the bad guys to come in and do bad things, not just to you as a user, but to your entire organization. Your whole organization could go down based upon one person's actions. And again, have a care opening email. I'm going to talk a little bit about more phishing. All right, so malware, I'm going to run through these really quickly. There's all kinds of malware out there. Ransomware, you see all the things on the left there, those different examples. Malware is essentially any software that gets loaded onto your computer that's designed to exploit that system in some way where it gives them an elevation of privileges. They steal your information. They lock up your systems, or it can even physically damage your computers. There's so much out there. And most cybercrime, like it says here, begins with an introduction of malware. They don't just log in and copy your stuff. They have to find a way to get in. And they do that via malware that captures things like keystrokes. So when you type in your password, your login ID and your password, that information gets captured and then it gets sent somewhere. Things like that. Phishing. Phishing is the primary means by which malware gets introduced into your systems. Again, you see some of the examples here. You can get phished through all these things. Primarily, it's emails. Text messages are a big deal as well. Documents that are embedded in emails that you click upon that open. You think you're opening a picture or you're looking at a Word document, and meanwhile, there's something running in the background because it contains malware. Phishing are those emails, those text messages, etc., that look really real. They look legit. You get an email from your credit card company or from your bank, or perhaps from your employer or your boss or things like that. They come in, they look legit, they ask you to do certain things. Maybe they're requesting information. Maybe they want you to open a link, or like I said, maybe they want you to open a file of some sort. Have a care when you do those things. If you get those emails from your bank and whatnot that say your account might have been compromised, we need you to click here to change your password. I beg you, do not ever open those links that you get in those emails. If you think that it's even just slightly possible that you are having a problem with an account being compromised, go directly to your bank or your credit union's website. Don't use the links to navigate to where you think you're going. Open up a new instance, open up a browser window, type in your bank's address, no differently than you would normally go to, or call them. If you think you have an issue, call your bank up. If your boss sends you an email that looks sketchy, give them a call and find out if they really sent it and if they really do need copies of your entire department's W-2s. Ask ahead of time. Little things like that go a long way towards preventing the really bad day for your IT folks that they all fear. Ransomware. Ransomware is a scourge upon our country right now, actually upon all the industries of the world. If you're not familiar with ransomware, it is basically malware that encrypts the contents of your computers. You go to work one day, you find your computer's working slowly. By the end of the day, it's acting really weird. So you say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to get ahead of traffic. You log off your system, you go home, you come back the next day, and you find a message of some sort that says the contents of your computer have been encrypted. Basically, they are holding your information for ransom, and they want to be paid in Bitcoin. This is done by organized crime. It is done by hacktivists. It is just done by people who have nothing better to do with their time than to cause chaos. Ransomware affects industries across the board. Right now, healthcare is experiencing a very dramatic increase in ransomware. Different hospital networks across the country are being targeted. That said, it doesn't happen to just hospitals. It doesn't happen to just business. It happens to regular people as well. The bad guys know that you're more than likely to pay if they set their price point correctly and they know exactly how to price things out. So if you get locked up with ransomware, both at work or at home, again, go back to those backups. If you don't have good backups, you're at the mercy of the, to pay the ransom if you want to get your files back. Again, have a care to what you open, because that's how the ransomware gets delivered. And the really good patient bad guys out there will allow the ransomware to traverse your entire network. It will corrupt everything. It'll get put into place on your backups and everything, and then it will activate. And then you're really having that bad day. So that's why you should care, because, again, you could be affected by this at home. Again, think about everything that's on your computers, your pictures, your income tax returns, all those different things. And it gets locked up, and to get it back, you might have to pay $500 or $1,000 or $1,500. Just have a care, have that stuff backed up offline so you don't have to pay that ransom. All right, so I talked quite a bit about the different things, some of the challenges that are being faced out there by both regular people and by organizations, your workplaces, your industries and the like. These are some of the things that CISA has to help alleviate some of those challenges for you. The artist formerly known as the NCCIC, the National Cybersecurity Communications and Integration Center, is now known as the CISA Integrated Operations Coordinating Center. The SIOC, what used to be known as the NCCIC, is a big security operations center that DHS stood up after 9/11 for the sharing of information. There's a lot of a cyber component to it nowadays that do different things. It's where folks like the ICS and the US CERT sit, the FBI, a lot of the ISACs have seats at the tables there. So anyway, the NCCIC can help you with malware analysis. They can do some remote assistance. So if you get infected with something and you're looking for help on how to clear it, give us a call, give me a call. We can hook you up with the right people to give you some advice over the phone. Under the SIOC, you have the cybersecurity advisors like myself. We have protective security advisors. I know this is more of a cyber-centric presentation that I'm giving, but the protective security advisors are to physical security as the CSAs are to cybersecurity. The PSAs do physical security assessments. They do physical security training, things like that. And again, just like the CSAs, it's all free. They're all there to help. We're not there to judge. We are just there to set, basically help you establish a baseline where you can then use to navigate from to enhance your cyber and physical security across your organization. We have an entire branch of folks called the Cyber Exercise Program that help people with tabletop cybersecurity exercises. Tabletop exercises are a great way to figure out what you don't know. We have a lot of good folks out there that work very hard as far as incident response plans and things like that. They put them together, they exercise them. That is the best way to figure out what you don't know. It's not what you know that's going to get you, it's what you don't know that will come back and bite you. And tabletop exercises are a great way to figure out what you don't know. The Cyber Exercise Program can help you establish a tabletop program. They have canned scenarios that they can make available to you. So if you've never done a tabletop exercise and you'd like to run one, perhaps as a ransomware scenario or things like that, they can give you these exercises. They're like an exercise in a box. All the documentation's done, and you can take it and run with it. But by and large, their biggest program is their biggest function as a program is they help people facilitate full-blown tabletop exercises. They will help you plan an exercise from scratch. They will run it. They'll come up with all the documentation, and they'll give you a nice after-action report. Stop, Think, Connect is our user awareness training. October was National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Busy time for the CSAs. I think I did 12 different user awareness presentations across all of industry in Region 2. If it's something you're interested in, by all means, if you Google Stop, Think, Connect DHS, you will go to that page. There's a toolkit you can download. It's got promotional materials and the like. And if you're interested in having an actual training event let me know. My contact information will be at the end. By all means, give me a shout and we'll figure out how to facilitate that for you. I'm going to spend the rest of my time on the column on the right. Basically, we have some evaluations and assessments that we can do for you. I'm going to talk real quick about these things. If you're looking for a larger conversation, by all means, get in touch with me. We'll go over these in depth, but I'm just going to go over them briefly. Vulnerability scanning. We can scan any externally facing IP address for things like missing patches, application updates, maybe ports that are open on systems that shouldn't be open, or services that are running. You know, think why have a fax service enabled on a computer that doesn't have a fax machine hooked up to it? Things like that. They're just open holes waiting to be exploited. We can scan you, taking a look again. If it faces the outside world, if we can see it from the outside looking in, we can scan it, give you a report. Usually you get a report once a week. It'll spell out the vulnerabilities that it perceives on the IP addresses that we scan and give you some idea on how to fix them. Along with that, we can do web application scanning. Again, we're scanning a box. It's got apps that are running, you know, web apps type of a situation. We can scan those and again, give you a vulnerability report about that as well. Penetration testing. Yes, we offer free penetration testing. There's a couple different flavors of it. I'm just going to talk about the remote pen test right now because the on-site test is kind of being held in abeyance because obviously we're not traveling due to COVID. But we can do what's called a remote penetration test. It could take a week, it could take a month. It's all done remotely. Again, we would work with you to come up with the boundaries, so to speak, the scope of the assessment. All this stuff is worked out ahead of time. I'd happy to have a longer conversation with you about that as well. Phishing. I talked a lot about phishing and how phishing is the primary means for malware to be introduced into your systems. A lot of mature organizations are already phishing themselves. That is a great thing to do. A lot of it really is helpful to both the IT staff and you as the workforce. It helps raises your level of awareness as to what phishing is, what it can look like and the like. That said, it can be a little bit of an expensive proposition and not every organization is equipped to phish themselves. We can do an assessment for you. It's a series of 6 phishing emails where we can send them to your users. Basically the users, each of the links, or like I confused, each of the emails contains a link. If your users click on the link, the clicks get tallied. That then gets reported up, and then after the 6 phishing emails go out, the tallies are counted and aggregated, and you get a report that gives you the click rate for each of the phishing emails that you get. They vary in complexity. Some of them are pretty obvious phishing attempts. Some of them are going to get more subtle. They would work with your IT folks to come up with the subject lines and email body content and whatnot. We have 3 facilitated assessments. That's where I would come to your facility. I would do these 3 assessments. The first one is called the Cyber Resilience Review, the CRR. That is a programmatic assessment. It is a big picture look at the overall maturity of your cybersecurity program. By your program, I'm talking about the roll-up of your plans, policies, processes, procedures, all that stuff rolled up is your program. And the CRR looks at that with an eye towards how formalized that program is, how mature are your plans and your processes and your policies, or the less ad hoc you are. It's another way to look at it. You get a written report when it's all said and done. It's a great assessment to help figure out, maybe you're a very mature organization and you're trying to find some areas where you want to devote some resources. This will help you prioritize those areas to devote those resources to. The Cyber Infrastructure Survey, the CIS, my favorite assessment to do with people. It is a security controls assessment. Basically, I'm going to put this assessment up on the board. We're going to go through it, and it will evaluate 80 different cybersecurity controls and how they're implemented upon your infrastructure. It is not like a scan or anything like that. All the facilitated assessments are question and answers, but I'm going to ask you questions about things like antivirus products that are employed. Do you have multi-factor authentication? Do you have policies for handling accounts in the event of an employee retirement or someone gets terminated or a job transfer, things like that? It's a great assessment to find the low-hanging fruit in regards to the cybersecurity posture of your organization. Comes up with a lot of easy things that maybe you didn't think of. I say easy because the findings are usually those that can be fixed at a low level. Think like a network manager level, instead of like something that needs to be addressed at a really high level by a senior vice president somewhere, something like that. Last assessment I'm going to talk about is the External Dependencies Management Assessment, the EDM. It is, some people refer to it as a supply assessment or a supply chain assessment. It's more about risk. It's helps you ascertain the risk or understand the risk to your organization based upon the services provided to you by vendors that are under contract with you. So if you have a lot of vendors and they perform really critical services for your organization, you know, think the kind of thing like if your vendor were to go out of business or your vendor were to get breached or something like that, do you really understand the impact to your organization if that were to happen? Or let's say you're doing something, whatever it is that you do for, you know, your company does or your firm does, and you have a critical vendor, and that vendor gets bought by a foreign government or it gets bought by a competitor. You know, it happens. Companies get bought out all the time. What is the risk to your organization? That's what the External Dependencies Management Assessment is all about. To summarize, like I said, we have a lot of things that we can bring to the table to help you meet some of those challenges that you're facing out there. Again, the vulnerability scanning can help you find those holes in your computers, your systems that didn't get patched maybe, so you can close the holes. Again, phishing, you know, understanding how likely your people are to click on any given email can give you an idea as to what the risk is to your organization. Pen testing, you know, who can argue with free pen testing? It's a great way to kind of find those holes that the bad guys might exploit, again, from the outside looking in. We can do this for you. And of course, we have the facilitated assessments that work in different areas. Like I said, programmatic, cybersecurity controls, and supply chain risk. You definitely have the protective security advisors for the physical security side of the house, cyber exercise for the tabletops, and again, user awareness training here. It's all free, by the way. I'm not sure I said that before, but everything I spoke about is completely free. There's no cost associated with any of these things. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it. This is my contact information. By all means, give me a call, send me an email. I'm happy to talk to you and give a more in-depth presentation to your organizations about the different things that I spoke about, especially the resources that are available to you. That's what I've got.
All right, we're going to take a few questions. Thank you for that. First one is, can private industry take advantage of CISA's resources?
Absolutely. We work across the board. It's not just the public sector or you know, basically private companies as well as state and local governments. Like I said, we work across the board. Private industry is just as eligible to take advantage of our services as anyone else. There's no prohibition against these things. These are taxpayer funded and these resources are available to you.
Okay, let me take another one. Do you share information with anyone?
No, actually we do not. We are precluded by federal law. When we do business with folks, any of the information that they share with us, you know, the goal is for, like I said, we try to help people, we try to help them baseline things, and in order for you to feel that you can share freely with us, because that's the best way to get the best results from our assessments in life, it's important that you, as the stakeholder, understand that the information that you share with us won't in turn be used against you. So there's different laws, there's different handling caveats, disclosure caveats, and things like that, that precludes anything that, as long as it's not publicly available information, like I said, we're not a regulator, we're not law enforcement, so we don't share that information with federal agencies. We don't use them for regulatory purposes. We can't share it with regulators. So please understand, feel free to share with us, because we don't want it to come back and bite you any more than you do. So share with confidence, it won't be used against you.
Right, that's true. How would one start the process to take advantage of the offerings that you spoke about?
Excellent question. Really, it just depends on what it is that you're looking for help with, or the different services that you want to take advantage of. The easiest way to do it is to just email me and say, hey, Rich, I'd like to get started on the cyber hygiene, the vulnerability scanning, things like that. Some of it is done via emails. The facilitated assessments are scheduled on our own mutual availability. So if you're looking for any of the facilitated assessments, if you have an open day on your calendar and it's open on my calendar, I come and I do the assessments. It all starts, just reach out to me on this email, give me a call, whatever works best for you, and we can get the ball rolling. Some of it requires a little bit more facilitation than others, especially like the cyber exercise program. They will want to have their own separate meeting with you. Again, the protective security advisors would want to talk to you more in depth about the services they offer. But anyway, it all starts with just reach out to me and I can make it happen for you.
All right. All right, that was a lot of information. We know you are busy, so we really appreciate you taking the time today to do this presentation, and hopefully we will see you again soon at one of our upcoming events.
Thank you again. I really enjoy doing these things for folks. Hopefully the people found it of value, and like I said, don't hesitate to reach back out and get in touch with me if you have any other questions. My information is there. Share it with anybody else that you feel is of value. By all means, I'm happy to talk with them as well. Thank you.
Are we allowed to keep these slides available on our website after the event?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, you can.
Great, Richard. So we'll be in touch. Have a good one. Thank you again.
Bye-bye.